Wave, Dave.
Hello, mate. How are you? My God, you look like Roger. Reincarnation.
Should have seen you back in St. Paul.
I know, yeah.
Well, first of all, John, although I know you probably heard this, I always think it's very interesting. What's your family name?
Oh, yeah, a lot of people know that now. My name is Jon Pertwee de Layogo. For those who didn't know that, I'm of a French family, Huguenot family, but we escaped out of France in the Huguenotic purge. My family were, or this one branch of my family, were Protestants, all the rest were Catholics, and so they said, well, get rid of them, we can't have him in France. And so he came to England. His name is Georges de Pertwee de Layogo, and he moved into Essex, and the large Pertwee clan are a result of his athleticism. Very potent man, this George. And so all the rest of us now, the large clan, all come from the seed of George. The name is P-E-R-T-H-U-I-S, Pertwee. The illiterate English would pronounce it Pertwis, and so we duly changed to P-E-R-T-W-W-E, and the English then called me Pertwee, or Petwit, Parsnip, Pee-wee. I had a letter the other day to Mr. Pertwee.
I like what happened to you on Broadway.
And on Broadway, as I was working in a play on Broadway, and I was very proud because my name was up in lights on the marquee, and 6 months, there it was, Jon Pertwee up in lights. And I went to the stage doorkeeper one day and walked past the stage doorkeeper, who was sitting at the end with a cigar going, and as I walked by, he said, "Hey, Jan!" Well, I didn't pay any attention because my name isn't Jan, as I went walking on, and he said, "Hey, Jan!" So I turned around and said, "Who, me?" He said, "Yeah, Jan Putrid, another for you." So that moment on, but I was known as Jan Putrid.
Well, let's start off with some questions from the audience, John.
Why not? Yes,
So
yes.
have you got any questions out there? Anybody? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
One of our dinosaurs are missing. Yes. This was I knew the director very well, and he rang. I knew the director very well, and he asked me to come in and take over this part of this old general. I asked him why he wanted me at a moment's notice. He said, because 2 other actors had turned the job down because they didn't like hanging from a lamppost 40 feet up in the air. And they knew that I was somewhat of a lunatic, and that I liked doing my own stunts and so on. So he said, well, would you do it? And I said, yes, I would. And this is how I got the job. And if you ever saw one of our dinosaurs are missing, I do go through hell. I get caught on a wire.
the racetrack banner.
Yes, on the racetrack banner, and it takes me off the top of the bus, and I'm left hanging on it. Which I really was left hanging on it, because they couldn't find a ladder tall enough to get me down. That was rather uncomfortable. Also for the armpits, it was a little cutting.
I like most of the chase, you're standing half in and out of a touring car, you've gone to the top, you've got an elephant gun, you're just blazing away through traffic.
Oh, it was lovely. Yes, I enjoyed all that. It was fun. I like those sort of idiotic parts. Like I enjoyed Carry On Cowboy very much. Again, for the same reason, but I didn't want to be in any of the carry-ons. It was just the director, Peter Rogers, who's a mate of mine, and he said, come in, because we've got to do something about clobbering Kenneth Williams. Because Kenneth was a great practical joker and an enormous personality, and things were a bit difficult for Kenneth, so he thought that I'd be able to clobber him a bit and hold him down. I was utterly incapable of doing so, but I enjoyed it. I did 3 carry-ons: Carry On Cowboy, Carry On Screaming, and
Carry On Cleo.
Carry On Cleo. I played the soothsayer, 500-year-old soothsayer. I looked like a very old Yorkshire Terrier, with hair hanging down here, which was perfect. I did that on purpose because I didn't want anybody to know that I was in a carry-on movie. So anyway, it's fun.
Well, I like your Carry On Cowboy, Sheriff Alvin Earp.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was fun. I read the script of this. It was rather boring. And so I said to the director, Peter, do you mind if the sheriff is blind? So what kind of sheriff would be blind? And I said, well, this sheriff, he's blind. And so I borrowed Katie Manning's glasses, or the equivalent, and was blind. And then I said, oh, would you mind terribly, I said, if I made the sheriff deaf? And he said, what, deaf and blind? I said, yeah, I think it'd be rather funny. So we had an ear trumpet. And so it went on, and so it made it much funnier because when I got on the horse, I got on backwards and did all that sort of. Oh, thank you very much indeed.
Something very, very important.
Oh, that's very cool.
Shall we tell them?
No, we won't tell them yet. Thank you. Anyway, that's how that came about. There's often many strange reasons for the reason why I do pictures. It's not only the money, usually it's the money, but not always.
Another question? Yes, oh there, okay. A lady in the scarf.
How did you find dealing with all the scientific equipment you have to do
Murder. I'm here to tell you that I was 5 years in Doctor Who and I didn't understand what the hell I was talking about 75% of the time. The only people that really understand it are you, the fans, and the writers. Even they didn't understand it often. And you had pages of scientific claptrap to learn. And I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But I said it with colossal conviction, and I used to have script stuck there, you see. And I'd say, now look here, Joe. The important thing about this language is that I'd look over there and somebody had it on their back, and I'd say, and when you get to this, you do this. And of course, these sobs that I work with, they kept shifting it. And they put the wrong bit of paper here, or that. And stay out! They would really mess me about with the script. But it was very difficult to learn that scientific rubbish. Yeah. But if much, you know, if you get blasé about it, where the hell have you been? Have you got a note from your mother? Sit down, keep quiet. Nice to see you. Brought your lunch with you, I see. That wasn't a cannibal joke. Oh,
Let's see. We got another question. The man, this is, by the way, this guy, good taste. He's going to want
yes, now this gentleman
he
here.
won Katie, by the way, for the lunch.
What? Oh, did you win Katie? Well, that is Glenn, isn't it?
Yes, that's Glenn.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a very interesting thing. There's a gentleman sitting down here, and he's the most magical photographer. He takes superb pictures, and he did a folio of me, and some of the best pictures I've ever had taken in my life. It's Glenn. Stand up. Sit down, Glenn. That's enough. I'm starved.
Besides, everyone in the audience hates you for winning Katie.
Well, he paid.
I know.
Yes, Glenn takes wonderful, wonderful pictures, and I wrote on it, I said to America's Karsh, and I think he thought it was a chocolate bar or something. It was, in fact, one of the greatest photographers of all time. Remember that wonderful picture of Winston Churchill looking like a bulldog? No, that lovely picture down there. Well, that was taken by Karsh, great photographer. Glenn, it has the same sort of quality. Yeah. Oh, sorry, what was your question? Well, hands up those of you that have seen any Wurzel Gummages. Quite a lot. Where have you seen it at conventions? Yeah. And people are now they're copying the clippings. Well, it's a very tragic story. For some inexplicable reason, in the United States of America, the powers that be of television, they say that Americans do not understand English. Now, I don't know what language it is that you're speaking, or yes, I mean, you're astonishing linguists, but you seem to be understanding what I'm saying now.
And if I said to you, you seem to understand what I'm talking about now, you don't have any difficulty, do you? No, you can hear what I'm saying, you sis, can't you? Yes, my darling. Yeah, well, there you are.
That's how I speak in Wurzel Gummidge. People come in conferences, they come from all over the United States of America, from every state of the Union, and at the end of it, when I've shown Wurzel Gummidge in the evenings, late shows, I said, anybody wants to see it, we'll show them. And the next day I said, did you enjoy it? And they say, yes. And I said, did you understand it? And they say, absolutely. And so it's a lot of rubbish. But American television is very strong. They've got a grasp all over the world of what's going to be shown and what's going to be pushed down our throats. And we have to put up with an enormous percentage of very, very bad American television. And you do not take our programs except on the magic station PBS. Now this is wonderful because it shows all the British programs, and you, being the cognoscenti of television viewers, you watch it and you love it and you appreciate it. And if it wasn't for you, the Doctor Who fans, the Whovians, there probably wouldn't be any PBS stations, because in the majority you were the ones that raised the money for them. But they actually say this quite seriously, and we have tried for years to sell Wurzel College to America, and every single time they say no, no, in the Midwest, people would not understand what you're talking about. Now, if in Glasgow, in Scotland, I got kind of funny say like that, I'm sitting with you, and I'm talking about you, can't be afraid to say, you know what I'm saying about you, Now, you don't understand a word I'm talking about, right? Which is understandable, but that's how Glaswegians speak. And they're actually speaking a language. I'm saying something there. I mean, call you fifi, I mean to trip you up, call you fifi. Now, they in Glasgow speak this strange dialect, as they do in Wales, in Ireland, West Country. Everybody speaks with their own dialect in England. And yet we understand every single dialect you throw at us, whether it is a black dialect, whether it is Bronx Jewish, whether it is Midwest, or whether it is, cowboy Southern. All those dialects people have no problem understanding at all. Now, why the hell is it? Are they making out that you're a lot of cretins? But that's a very insulting attitude, because if we can understand every one of your dialects and every one of your what would you call them, dialects?
Yeah, dialects, yeah.
Why?
Accents.
Why is it not in reverse? So,
Here, here.
what's that?
Because the cretins are the ones who are in power.
Well, there you go. There you go. I didn't like to say that. I'd have guessed. But we've, of course, done to sell Wurzel to America, and I think probably one day somebody will have the personality to do it and to show it. And when it does, now I took that show. It was originally going to be a movie. I made it into a big feature movie, and we couldn't get the money together to make it, the distribution, which is the old story of British film business. The doldrums has been for the years financially. So we couldn't get the money together, and so my two writers, who were some of the top writers and dramatists in England, Keith Waterhouse and Willis Hall, they said, forget it. And I said, no, please don't forget it. Write me a pilot, and I'll send it to television. So they wrote me the pilot, it was 3 pages, and I took it to the BBC, and I gave it to them to read. And after 3 days, they ran me back, and well, isn't that wonderful? What do you think? They said, no, we don't reckon it. It's too fantastic. And I said, precisely, that's what people want now. They want to get out of the kitchen sink. They want to get away and think differently. The simplicity, the English countryside as people imagine it to be, with horse-drawn ploughs and old steam engines, all fantasy, but with beauty. That's what they would like. No, he said. I said, okay, you're very stupid. I go to Thames Television, where I've been making a show called Who Done It, which was pitched. That's another thing that irritates us. You take our best shows, then you Americanize them. We never know why. If they're good in England, why the hell can't they get here and left alone and you see it still? They did that with Who Done It. And they turned it down flat too, so I began to lose a lot of confidence. On television, there was a very strange, quirky gentleman called Lewis Rudd, who was in charge of Southern Television. He said, I think this is absolutely brilliant. He made it, and within 4 weeks of transmission, we were a completely national cult. We had a photo call, we'd have anything up to 150 photographers. Now that is incredible. Normally in photo call, you maybe get 4, 5. We'd have 150, because after those that have seen it, Aunt Sally, she's a painted wooden doll figure, an absolute bitch of a woman. and I love her dearly. And for all these scarecrows, you get the giant scarecrows. We had a scarecrow about 7 feet 5.
Yeah, I remember.
And then the little miniature one about 3'6". And they're all wonderful photographically. And it just went on. We ran for 10 years with these enormous figures. We had 12.5 million viewers a week. And America said no. So,
I like what you did to Eunice Stubbs. You were saying about the Anne Simply character. You got those buttons made up on the set.
oh yeah.
Well, that gag on Eunice Stubbs.
Oh yeah.
Plays
What
it
is
silly.
it? What is that? I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, we had Eunice Stubbs, a great giggler. And we had badges made up like that. People all wear badges, they're Doctor Who badges. And we had these badges made up. I went on the set with her to do a scene, and it said, Aunt Sally is a bitch. And she was going, I was, what would you do? She was gone for about 10 minutes. stage play.
What was your favorite part of doing the stage play?
I think I enjoyed the opening. Did you see it? No, did anybody see The Ultimate Adventure in England? Oh, you did. Was that Larry?
Larry, yeah.
Yeah, of course, Larry saw it. Larry Walker, a old friend of mine from Chicago. Yes, anybody else see it? No. You probably know about it. It's a stage version. The story of it this is rather funny, because I'm sure you don't know this. It was written by Terence Dix. You all know who Terence Dix is. He wrote a stage version for me many, many years before, and I couldn't do it because of my commitments. So they did it on the stage at the Adelphi Theatre in London with enormous success. It was then going out on a national tour to make money, and they had to cancel the tour because the monster they had built for it was so big they couldn't get it out of the theatre. That's absolutely true. If they dissected it, they destroyed it, so they had to abandon the whole thing. So then when this was mooted, it was going to be mounted in Australia. And you'll never know who the companions were going to be. They were two young Australian actors in a very, very popular series, which I believe you do see over here occasionally, something called Neighbours. And it was Jason Donovan and Kylie Minogue. And have you heard of them? Yeah, they're now very, very big in the pop field in Europe, probably not here. Is Kylie Minogue?
I've never seen the show myself.
Yeah, she is. Well, no, I'm not talking about Neighbours now. When they left Neighbours, they were coming because they wanted to get stage experience, and we were going to do a big national tour mounted in Australia with Jason Donovan, Kylie Minogue, who were very hot, and myself as the doctor. Well, when they were picked up by Scott Mortimer and 8, which are great rock and pop promoters, and they promoted them to be rock stars, and within 6 months they'd done it again, and they do everybody they touched, and they became national and certainly European and Antipodean rock stars, and so they naturally didn't want to do it. So we mounted it in England, and we toured England. I did half the tour, and Colin Baker did the other half. And my most enjoyable part was coming into number 10 Downing Street in the TARDIS. And there's Mrs. Thatcher sitting at her desk, and there's a wow, 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 wow. The TARDIS lands, and I come up and I say, "My dear Margaret, how are you?" And I enjoyed that most. And of course, the wonderful sort of vociferous welcome that you get from Whoosiers and from Doctor Who fans was magical. So whenever we went on our opening nights, we had audiences like you, and wildly enthusiastic, and they knew they got all the in jokes. And like reverse of the Lanigan neutron flows. They shoved in, like describing the dialect as being an idiotic machine with a single pump with egg whisk.
I always think of them as pepper pots myself.
Yeah, pepper pots with tennis balls buckled over.
The line came into my head and I won't say it. It's a family show. No. Later tonight, we'll get away with it in the cabaret. How many of you are coming to the cabaret?
All right.
We're gonna have a lovely time. Anyway, John, just to get away from Doctor Who for a minute, I thought some of them maybe may not have heard this. I think some of about you, some of your own personal experience. Because you were in the Royal Navy, and I don't know, how tall are you?
I'm 6 feet 2 1/2. Yes, I was. I've shrunk. It's true, one does. You get older, one does shrink. I've shrunk quite a bit. And the very first ship they put me into was a C-class submarine, which is about that high. And I was a wireless operator. The only way that I could work the Morse was like that. Like this. And every time the captain called me and said, "Sparks," and I said, "Sir," went bang.
Oh, you mean on the top?
On the top, yeah. It was only about this high, so I hit my skull on the crossbar. And the captain one day said to me, "Pertwee, that wound of yours is taking a long time to heal," pointing a piece of elastoplast on my forehead. And I said, "I haven't got a wound." So he said, "Why are you wearing that elastoplast?" I said, "So I won't get one." Without hitting my head, I thought it'd give me some sort of protection. So they took me out of submarines because I was too big. And they put me into battle cruisers. And I was in a battle cruiser called the Hood, which was the biggest battle cruiser in the fastest. It weighed 48,000 tons, and it did 42 knots in the water. And if you stopped it, it took 8 miles to stop. That's in full reverse. Oh, okay. So it took 8 miles, so if anything got in the way, it's unlucky for it. And we went into action against the Bismarck, and I was, which was a big German battleship, which was the fastest on the Hood and could outgun the Hood. And we went into action with it. I was taken over the side before the actual shell started blasting, because I was CW candidate, which means that I was an officer candidate, and the captain didn't want to waste his supernumeraries, he didn't want to waste his cadet. So he put us over the side down with grappling ropes, and we went onto a drifter, and she sailed in like that and opened up onto the Bismarck, got the first salvo into Bismarck first. Our gunnery was very good. And then the Bismarck fired back. The Bismarck had 5 armor-plated decks, and the Hood had 1 armor-plated deck. And so, as luck will have it, on the 3rd salvo that went on board, it hit just forward of X turret. You get A, B, X, and Y. And it went through 2 wooden decks and hit the armor deck, and the blast was so enormous that the paper-thin covers to the hatchways, which were about as big as this table, that they used to hoist the big shells and the magazine after magazines, was so thin it just blasted in and hit the magazine, and the ship went like that and blew up, and with the loss of 1,768 men in 2 seconds. I was in the drifter, just lying off, boom, and there you've seen all your mates go up in one go. But there were 3 survivors, one that was blown off the bridge, who was a signalman, one that was a midshipman, and my messmate, who was the killick in my mess, that's the leading seaman in my mess, he jumped from the upper gun deck down to the foredeck and took 1 sea boot off, and then the boat blew up. And it blew in 2 halves, and miraculously, as extraordinary things happened with blasts and explosions, he was left sitting in the water, completely uninjured. Only just the 1 person, the other 2 had already been out of the boat on the first salvo. Tilly, this is a friend of mine, was in the last salvo. When they did, you've got this program, This Is Your Life. You have it here? This is Your Life.
That's where it originated.
Yeah, it originated in the States. Well, they did mine, This Is Your Life, and I was fine all through it, and Katie was in it, and we had a lot of laughs. And then they brought on the 2 survivors of the Hood, and that absolutely caused me.
You hadn't seen them in ages?
Oh, no, I was so emotionally upset I couldn't speak for the rest of the program, really, very moving. But when I got home, it's not a funny end to this, but all the mail that had been sent to me in the ship was sent to John Pertwee, ordinary seaman, ordinary to negligence gun, HMS Hood, and they put a sticker on it saying the addressing of this envelope is missing, presumed killed. And this all went back to my parents. So when I turned up at the flat with my own key and opened it and said, "Hi, everybody," my father said, "Oh, no."
Gee, don't you love such rousing welcomes home?
Oh, wonderful.
You have 2 interesting distinctions from your Navy career, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. One, of course, I made some notes of it. I have this habit of scaring the hell out of John by finding out these little embarrassing things about him. You like that sort of stuff, right? One, what is this? The first thing is about you almost cutting off the king's head.
Oh, that is interesting. The King of England came to the Isle of Man, where I was with a flotilla of air sea rescue craft, which are, very fast, like what you call motor torpedo boats.
Yeah.
And I was training people on radar operation with these boats. And I was in charge of the welcoming division to welcome His Majesty the King. And I rehearsed my men very theatrically. That the captain kept ticking me off. He said, "When you're drilling your men, Pertwee," he said, "for God's sake, stop playing the part of the Sergeant Major." But I was saying, "Wah! You out! Stop!" You don't do that as a gentleman officer. You say, "Squad will come to attention. Squad, Captain." That's what you're supposed to do, but I didn't. Anyway, so I rehearsed my blokes. And in the Navy, when you are presenting a division like this before a royal, you carry your sword. And so I outed my sword, and I stood to attention like that when the king came. And then I shouldered my sword, which is called up on my shoulder, and I did a smart about turn, and the blade went, and it missed the king's jugular vein. I mean, that really would have been less fashion statement. I'd have been hung all in the court.
And that would be for a starter.
But there was a funny thing. The king went round this island where they speak an extraordinary language called the Isle of Man, and they speak a language called Manx, which is completely pure language. It's a Gaelic language. And the king was down in the southern part of the island where all the real Manx-speaking people are. And the governor of the Isle of Man was there, a big admiral. And any chance got anybody who speaks Manx? And the governor said, yes, of course. He said, that man there, come here. He said, yes, sir. Fall on him. And he said, His Majesty the King would very much like to hear some Manx. So would you please recite the Lord's Prayer in Manx? And the man looked straight at the king and said, recite the Lord's Prayer in Manx? I couldn't recite it in bloody English. Oh, I laughed. Lord, I first of all, nearly cut his head off and then got hysterics.
The other thing is, which is to me always amazing, no matter how many times we tell it, is you were blown up, and you're still alive.
Well, I was blown up several times during the war. I was in a roof, fire watching, because the Germans used to drop things called fire bombs, incendiary bombs, little things like that. They go through the roof and start a fire and burn the place up. So we had to get sandbags and rush them, jump on them, put them out. And we were in this room in Portsmouth Barracks, and they said air raid sirens went, and then we heard the German bombers go over, and you could always tell because they made a completely different noise, so you knew whose bombers were whose. And they dropped these bombs, and people were saying, oh, parachutists! Because they dropped a thing called a landmine, and they dropped another parachute, and they thought it was parachutes, so we thought the invasion was about to start. We were expecting that anyway. And then they said, no, landmines! And then somebody said, no, parachutists! So you were first of all running to get the parachutists, and when it was landmines, you were going the other way. Anyway, they then dropped these incendiaries, and I've got a sandbag, and I leapt on it and pushed it. And instead of putting it out, I pushed it through the floor, and it fell on the floor below, and started a raging inferno amongst all the hammocks that were all there, I think all the hammock netting. And the whole thing was burning merrily, and I was going to be barbecued up there. So I said, everybody down, and everybody came out, and they came down this iron ladder, and at that minute, it was a landmine, hit the end of the building, and it blew the end of the building off. The blast came in, hit the wall, hit me on the chest, and took me backwards. You know, blast does funny things, doesn't only blow you that way, it brings you that way. And I went backwards, and I remember as I went through the room seeing ching, 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 which were the girders of the building, which were hanging hammocks on, going past my eyes. And I then fell out of the story, which was about as high as this balcony, about there. And I fell into the crater where the bomb had gone off. Now, of course, when they find somebody with a thing called a hematoma, which is a thing like a sort of pointed head, I had this enormous swell on my head and was bleeding all over the place and covered in black bomb dust. And they thought I was obviously somebody who had been in that building and was dead, so they put me in the morgue. It was the officers' mess across the way, and they took me down and they put the morgue was full up, so they put they put me in the larder of the officer because they were marble slabs, and so they laid me on this marble slab, thought that I was a goner, waiting to take me away to bury me. Well, I came to about half an hour later, and I thought, where the hell am I? I did this, and I felt the top. I thought, oh Christ, I'm in a coffin, and I could feel the top of this. And then I put my hand up, there was nothing there, and then there was a bit of light. There was an arm hanging down, and I said, oi, there's somebody. He went, this poor chap, whoever it was, sort of fell off, down into the thump on the floor, and I thought, oh my God. So I yelled, I said, wait, help. So a fellow flung the door open, I said, this man's dead. He said, blimey, mate, I thought you were. Interesting thing is that the president at that time was our late Prime Minister, James Callaghan, the Labour Prime Minister. He and I were great mates, and he and I were both in that explosion at the same time, so we had a lot to talk about.
I love that when you're saying they put it in the officer's mess. Is there any, now maybe there's some truth to this rumor that you hear sometimes officers eat their dead or something?
Horrible one. Not the British name,
Oh no, that's true. Dr. Hooper said such a Texas strategy on this. One of my favorite, you told a story that absolutely cracks me up. It destroy the image of Jon Pertwee here. I mean, you were doing a location and they had you with something about, you shook up with some Navy people. I think you were shooting the Sea Devils or something. The curlers.
Oh, no, I'm sure you've heard that story. This comes under the heading of one's most embarrassing predicament. We were doing the Sea Devils with I think the Army, wasn't it?
Sea Devils was the Navy.
Yes, but I think, was it? No, then it wasn't the Sea Devils, it was one other. It was something we were using in the army. And we were using the sergeant's mess as a changing room. And I was out in Nessie with Katie, and we got absolutely drenched. And Katie's hair went completely straight, and so did mine, because I used to have mine, although in my way it's sort of natural, but I get them zhuzhed up a bit in the old days, very bouffant, you know. And I have a very bad spine, so if I'm doing anything hairy, if I'm doing any stunts, or if I'm driving a motorbike or a car quickly, I wear one of these corsets which holds you very firmly together. So it was very cold, so I was wearing long johns, which, what do you call long johns here? Long johns. I was wearing long johns, and I went in, and my wardrobe mistress said, "Come on, this is ridiculous. Get out of those clothes. You're going to get chilled, for heaven's sakes." So I got out of the clothes, I sat in the chair, and the hairdresser came up and said, "Don't put your hair," and I put some Carmen rollers in it. So she put me in Carmen rollers, like this, and there I was with long johns, a corset, my hair in Carmen rollers, the door opened, and the sergeant major came in. And he said, "Right, now, does anybody want..." Oh my God. As he went outside, he said, "Oi, Charlie, Pertwee's one of those." No, the Navy Lark was my radio series, which you probably never heard of, but Eric's got tapes of something. That was my radio show, which ran for 20 years, nearly 20 years. It was the longest running comedy radio show in the history of broadcasting anywhere in the world, including the United States. We ran nearly 20 years with it, and we're now issuing cassette tapes.
BBC's putting them out, and
BBC's putting them out. If anybody ever wanted them, they could get them through Enterprises.
Let's get a couple of questions.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, we got, finally they're right, they're awake now. Let's get Lisa.
You talked about radio programs. I'm a big fan of radio programs here in the United States. What other types of programs were on the air in England, like 30s, 40s, comedy drama, or...
Well, enormous output in every single kind. Enormous output of children's programs called Children's Hour, what I call MAP, which ran every day. No disc jockey programs, no pop music, because there wasn't any in those days. There was a man called Christopher Stone, who was the first disc jockey. He played beautiful music, great ballads, great singers of great repute, orchestral music, light music. Well, no, that was much later, much later. And drama was very good. The plays were frightfully good. We have a thing called the BBC Repertoire Company, where they do nothing but dramas and plays. And it still carries on to a degree, but of course there's no money left for radio now. That's why, I never stopped at radio for years. I had my show after show after show. I was something called Waterlove's Fire, Public Post Office, half-hour sitcom shows. And but they don't do anything anymore, very, very few. Although there is talk now. I did a show the other day with a very famous disc jockey called David Jacobs. And he's done a thing called Jacob's Ladder, and I did the test program with him the other day. And we hope that will take off. And I've just been asked now to do a new radio series. So I think radio may be coming back a little. I believe it is in America.
Only by replays, most of the time by replays of the old radio shows on special programs. We have in LA, we have on the KNX, which is the CBS mutual radio network, and 1 hour in the evening. They call it the radio KNX drama hour. And they would, each night they run an episode of two different shows. Like one night we have The Shadow and Dragnet, another night the Turn Sergeant.
Well, we have much the same thing, but not really well. Yeah.
Really? Oh, yeah, Cincinnati.
Yes, David there had a question. No? Yes. Oh! You understood wrong, madam. I don't even know when a Russell is. A Russell. Did you mean the big comedian? Yeah. No, I've never done Russell.
Which mentioned voices, but speaking of voices, yeah, I love it. You do some great voices.
Yeah, I know, but I don't do Ella Russell.
No, no, Russell.
No, I don't know how much it sounded like. That's must be somebody else. Maybe that has to be Avery.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
Gentleman there, yes, the captain. Lord Dunsany the 13th. Did you ever meet Lord Dunsany the 13th? Any of his work was getting any airplay? Adapted for. He's the one who wrote a lot of the fantasy stories and all.
No. No, never.
Over there. Yes. Oh, wonderful.
Absolutely wonderful. All I did was copy General Montgomery. You remember General Montgomery? He was our commanding officer of the British troops in World War II. And he was a wonderful man to impersonate. And Jimmy Hill, who directed World War Government for 10 years, he directed that. And he asked me to do it. It was marvelous. In case you've ever seen that one I did in The Avenger, I did 2 or 3 actually. It was this man who was doing his memoirs. And he had all these terrible old Victrolas, all the terrible old wind-up gramophones doing all the noise effects things. Lovely, I love it. I like it as a sort of gimmicky and way out. Yeah.
Lady way over there. Oh, gentlemen, sorry.
Lady of the 80s.
Just a minute. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how that came about. Unfortunately, when I was a vaudevillian, which I was for many years, working in music halls, stand-up comedy, I was likened to Danny Kaye. Danny Kaye came and absolutely stopped the world. He loved it for ladies. Was enormously successful, and they kept, because we looked alike to a degree, well, I'm taller than he is, and he's got coloured hair, and he's Jewish, and I'm a boy. We did have a certain similarity, and so he double booked himself for this picture, and he couldn't get to England for all the location shots, the chase sequences, the shot behind the car with the roof going up and down, all these sequences, and he said, we must have a double. We don't stand it, but a double, somebody who can do and move and look like him. And so somebody said, oh, I know the very chap, Jon Pertwee, because they rang up and spoke to my agent, and I told him exactly what to do with it. And he said, certainly, I don't want to know about this. And this went on. They said, right, to hell with that agent, we'll know another agent. And the other agent said, I'll tell you, I'll know the very boy, a lovely boy. I'll tell you, I can get him. He looks exactly like Danny. Leave it to me. And they said, what's his name? He said, don't ask me his name. I won't get him for you. And he'd ring my agent, and my agent had said, I've got to get out of it. They don't want to know. And this went on for a long time, until I said to my agent, look, there's one thing that American film companies understand, and that is that if you ask for the earth, they start getting interested for some extraordinary reason. In England, you ask for the earth, and you don't ever hear from them again. And so I said, okay, I'll do the job. They asked me, took me out to lunch at the Savoy, and I said, I want a suite at the Savoy while the picture's being made. I want Rolls-Royce Fire. I want a trailer, a caravan, and when the film is over, I want the caravan. I want X pounds in cash, no tax. I want no publicity. And I went on and on and on and on like this, and I said, that's my deal. And they said, okay, you've got it. I was what they call in England hoisted with my own petard. And I had to take the job. So I did it, and I made an agreement with Danny Kaye that we'd have no publicity at all. Nobody would know that I was doing this, and we'd keep it quiet, and if people guessed, well, that was up to them. And on the opening night, a columnist went up. The picture, as you know, was an enormous success all over the world, and they went up to Danny Kaye, this columnist called Bill Bourne. He said, hey, Mr. Kaye, he said, that's a great picture. He said, thank you. And he said, I thought Jon Pertwee did a very good job in doubling for you in all the British sequences. And he said, yeah, Jon did a great job. He said, thank you. And we get the front page of every newspaper. I could have killed him.
I have a tape of the film. They ran it last year on the television. Being the fiend that I am, I was looking and I spotted, you can really spot, if you really look, there's one beautiful scene where they shot, was the girl, it was Eva Bartok?
No, it was My Zetterling.
My Zetterling, where they're talking and everything, but then they had the long shots where he couldn't be around. So suddenly you can see this person, supposedly Danny Kaye, only who's obviously much taller, sort of walking next to her, trying to hunch down. He looks like a hunchback gargoyle, you know, next to her. Young fellow over there, yeah, your schlepper there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you. Who was your favorite?
My favorite enemy. That's a bit of a non sequitur, isn't it? Favorite enemy. My favorite enemy. Oh, the master. My lovely friend Roger. Yeah. I miss Roger very much because Roger was not only a marvelous actor, but he was also one of my own big personal friends. And, I introduced him to his wife. She was an old friend of mine. And so we had a great friendly relationship. It was great. Tragedy, he was killed by some idiot taxi driver in Turkey, going to make a movie.
You're a sportsman, I know that. You was in the museum, the Indy 500 museum.
Oh, sure, yes, I used to race motor cars. I was a Grand Prix racer in the 50s. And I raced in Europe a lot with a fellow called Lance Mack.
You do all sorts of sports. I mean, the last time, first country done in years, you've taken up, you've gotten involved with hang gliding.
Oh, that was, yeah, when I was last in America, I went to El Paso. I was working in El Paso, and I'd always wanted to fly a microlight. And there was a teacher there teaching microlight. And I went absolutely demented by it. Anybody ever flown a microlight? That's a hang glider with an engine on it. Oh, that's absolutely sensational. We were up in the air I mean, the fact that my wife allowed me up in it, I cannot understand.
I heard she kept muttering things at you in German sometimes during the convention when you talked about it.
But she, when you're up in the air with these things, my co-pilot, who used to sit through the instructional planes, so they're tiny. He said, pull the stick back. Put it right back. And I put it back in. He said, let it go. And I said, no! He said, let it go. And I let it go, and the plane went, He said, you see, they fly themselves. He said, now push it forward. I pushed it forward. He said, let it go. So they really, once they're up and the engine's going, they fly themselves. Wonderful. A great experience. I like that.
Well, you also mess around with skin diving quite a bit, too.
Yes, I'm a baking skin diver. Well, a lot of you have seen things like carrying the treasures around the neck. That's a piece of 8, the thing's power and treasure. That's 16, my card.
Treasure item, my dear.
You know, like that ring, that ring is 850 years before Christ. That ring which I found in a wreck. But there was one story which I always like to tell. I was in the Seychelles time, with a group of people. There was an Irishman. And he said, you know, I've never been under the water. I don't like the water very much, but I've never had a time coming back and taking a look at the fishes. Would you teach me how to do it? And we said, yes. So we brought him in sort of fairly shallow water, and we then took him out. We thought he was still fishing down. The first diver went down, and he went down the anchor chain, which is what we all do. And when he got down the bottom, he turns around and he does that. So the next diver to come down. Well, when he went down, the first thing he saw was about as far away as the end of this table, there was a cave. In the cave was a thing going. A very large shark. Very, very large shark. So he went to me, which was the sign, there's a biter in there. And I went, right? So when the next one came down, I went, see? And so everybody knew that there's a biter in this cave. And then the Irishman came down, and we went, and he went, ah! And he opened his mouth, and he dropped his valve in his mouth, in his intake, so he started swallowing water, and he went, and he passed out under the water. Now, you throw water over people to bring them round.
In a situation like this.
Yeah, so we said, well, this is terrible. So we buddy breathed him for a minute, and then we put his valve back in his mouth, his return valve, and we got him right. And I said, calm yourself. And we stood him about as far away as he's sitting down over there, and the shark was in the cave over here. And we said, stay there. So the last diver came down, who was leading the expedition, he was a German guy, an absolute lunatic, and he went, and he had his spear gun, and no shark will ever go into a cave, he'll come in the back and come out the front. He won't go in anything that he can't get out of both ways, or go in one way and come out the other. So this fellow was very experienced, and I knew that the shark, his tail would be flapping around down the back. So he went round with his spear gun, and he rammed this spear gun right up the shark's posterior. Well, the shark went, oh! late for?
Right to the Irish.
Right to the Irish, and he went, "No!" Said, "I'm never bloody going in the water again. I'm never going to drink the stuff either."
But W.C. Fields used to say about it, I never touch water, fish do things in it. Oh, we have a question. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold it, not yet. Yes, I will.
Do you have a threatening note?
Yeah. Excuse me while I read this.
Okay. You have a question? What is the question? Oh, okay. This gentleman there has a question.
Yeah.
This nice cap.
Because the BBC, as you probably know, is not terribly bright. They decided, somebody gave them some excellent advice, wouldn't it be a good idea to go into the archives and throw away about 50% of all Doctor Who's and burn them? But we won't just burn one whole story. No. We'll burn episode 3 of that one, and we'll burn episode 1 of that one. So they were lost. Then the BBC put out an edict which said that nobody would be prosecuted, hung, drawn, and quartered if they happened to have got a camera copy of The Demons #1 or The Sea Devils or any of the ones that were missing.
There are 2 full stories that are only now shown in black and white.
Yes, but I mean, in some countries they put up with it being shown in black and white. I think, in fact, you can show all these.
Yeah, so it depends on some PBS stations will not run black.
They won't run, which is silly in a way, because you're all fans of the program and you wouldn't mind if one episode is in black and white, as long as you see it. Then eventually it's in colour, and I'll be very quick to get used to that. However, they didn't, and they disappeared, and they were found all over the world, and they found some in a Mormon temple.
Yeah.
And they found some in Nigeria, in a village, in a hall in Nigeria, in a straw hut. They found a camera copy of Doctor Who. You know, what the hell were they showing in a crawl? And what were Mormons doing, seeing Doctor Who after the service? The thing mind boggles. But
You ever been to Utah?
So there are certain stories that they haven't got camera copies. You can take the American versions, if we've lost them in England, and they can be converted good enough to do on video, but not for showing on television. We won't show anything that isn't 100%. And so they decided to do, well, we'll do episode 1 in black and white, all the rest in colour. Who cares, as long as you see it? And I think most of them are now being stuff we found.
The only gripe I have is the one that did Invasion of the Dinosaurs. They found it in black and white, but then they decided to get cute and they redid the title, so episode 2 of the show in color is now episode 1, and they've never run the actual episode 1 here.
Yeah. I tell you what, let's do something here.
Yes, we have
This badge you see here, this is the Grand Order of Water Rats. It sounds a bit funny, but it's in fact a very serious order. It's an order that you have to wait to be asked to belong, and you can wait 100 years if you don't get a 98% vote, you're a million. It's rather like Masonic in a way, but it's theatrical. We look after children, sick children, in children's hospitals. We provide them with coaches like the Variety Club of Great Britain and your Variety Club, Jeff. It is the best of all the theatrical lodges, and I collect money for theatrical lodges. Therefore, when I sign autographs, which I will be doing later, I have 10 by 8 photographs. I've got nice colour posters and 1 or 2 rather unique ones, which are ones of Wurzel Gummidge being posters that I found. They're very much collector's items. And I sell these, and the profits go to my order. That's also muscular dystrophy and ME. And so I've got a few things here which I thought might interest you that I want to auction. If I don't get what I think is the right price for it, you can't have them. Because they do go for good prices. So let's start with something rather interesting here. What is that here? Here is the most incredible photograph I've ever seen in my life. This is a photograph of a gentleman who had a zip fastener down the right side of his leg. And then he said, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" And I dreaded to think what he was going to show me. He undid the zip on his thigh, and he showed me that. I don't know whether you can see. The whole right side of his thigh is covered in tattoos. And all the tattoos are of Doctor Who's. Permanently on his leg for life. He's got Doctor Who's. I don't think he's got any others on any other part of this anatomy, but he's certainly
I don't think I want to know.
on its legs. That's a unique piece. There's only one of them. Would anybody like to make me a bid? Right, good. We've got here an early day in Chicago. Somebody did this for me. It's a very unique piece. It says, there's a picture of me on the front there, and it says, a long-shanked rascal with a mighty nose. And there it is, says, flattery will get you nowhere. Would anybody like to make me a nice bid for that?
By the way, if any of you know the work, this is by a very fine fan artist named Cheryl Duval, who's one of the most incredible caricatures. This is a one of a kind. What size is the shirt?
The shirt? Well, it's extra large. Too small. What do you want? Extra large? Anybody interested? No, but what?
$10 we have.
10.
We have it. We got a 20.
20.
25. Bid a 25? 30. 30. How about a 40? We got a 40 from somebody. 40? We got a 30 once?
What's that?
We got a 30.
You got a 30.
We got, what?
Yes, what was that?
Oh, you just keep checking the time?
You got a 30.
30 once. 35. Okay. We got a 40. Anybody gonna dig in for a 40? Good cause. 35 once? 40. 40. Oh,
good. I was going to do this quickly, so we'll say $40. Any advance on 40? 40 once.
40 twice.
40 twice. Gone. $40. This is rather unique. We've just recently we've made things called the Troughton years, and the Pertwee years, and the Hartnell years. Sylvester McCoy linked the Bill Hartnell years, the surviving episodes, and therefore the ones that were lost were linked together. This will be out on video within a year, and they're out on video, the two of them, in June this year. And these are the original scripts, which they are the only ones, because I nicked them. Anybody want to make me a bid? That's the Pertwee years. 10.
25.
25. 30. Get a 35?
$30.
35. Get a 40. You get a 40. 35 once?
40.
Okay.
Right, I'll do it. 40 once. 40 twice. 50. Thank you, sir. 50 once. 50 twice. Gone, sir. 50. Okay. This is the Troughton years. Same to the script. So, here we go. 10. 15. 20. 25. 30. 35. 35 once. 40. 45. 50. 50. 50 once. 50 twice. What? 60. That was lovely. He's going, He probably is. He's got to be gently popular, I know. 60. Going once. Going twice. So, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Right, now this is something here. I don't want to let this go too easily. This is a sweater that was knitted with my head on it. Right? It's a big size. There it is. What have we bid?
We got a bid going. 15.
15.
25. 25.
25.
30.
30.
What?
35.
Did you say 35?
Did you say
35. 35. 35 and
We
gone.
got 40?
40.
Get 45. You get 45?
45. I think I'll have to withdraw this if I don't get more than this. Don't mind. 45. 45. Can I hear 50? Okay, what about something else?
This better. We better.
This is one of my original sonic screwdrivers. In its case. What am I doing? 10. 20. 25. 30. 40. 50. 60. 70. 80. 100. 100.
105.
105. 110. 110. 150. Oh, right. 150. 15.
They say you have trouble understanding the British.
115. 125. 125. 130. Something the 115 is yours straight away. 150, you got it. This rather interesting illustration. That's a painting of me and a sort of misty Colin Baker to the side. It's somewhat unique. I've never seen it before. Somebody drew it at a convention that I was at the other day.
And it's a printed paper too.
But he,
Laminated paper.
but he gave me 2 of them, so I'm prepared to auction one of them.
20.
20.
You get a 20. 25.
25? 25? 25?
I expect this is a very limited item. I don't think you'll see this.
25? Mike, it's yours.
You got it.
You got it. There you are, Mike. Then put it back in the room now. Will you all, as soon as we make a break, I don't quite know how you do this, but Mark will probably organise that. You just go and see Mark and he'll, because I don't suppose anyone has written this down. No, not yet, Mike. Thanks very much. We'll do that later. There's one more item here, which is a, what? Yeah, I know.
Oh God.
This is another unique little item, and that is myself, Zal, and Roger Delgado, and Bessie. It's a very good piece of art
Doing the demon
drawing. All these I would naturally I'll sign for you. What am I doing? 10, 20,
25.
25,
You get a 30. You get a 30.
30,
You get a 35.
30, 30 once, 35, 35 once,
40.
40, 40 once, 45, 45 once, 45 twice, so, thank you very much. Good. We got somebody waiting in the wings who wants to come in. Oh, goodish. Hello. Hello there. Come on. Now then. Oh, bless your heart. Thanks, Mike. Mike's inundated us with jewelry.
It's chicken.
Thank you, Mike.
Give these over.
Yeah, right.
It's a nice woolly,
It's
isn't
a
it?
lovely one, isn't it?
Why don't you model it? Why don't you model it for us?
I think that's terrific. You didn't know that.
Well, yes, I must admit I did, yes. Yes, isn't it lovely? Mike, God, handsome.
Good. I love the way Jon Pertwee on my chest.
I am not touching I'm not touching that line with a 10-foot Iraqi.
I don't know what Katie said when she was on here doing a panel shift, and we don't want to take it away from our own panel. But I don't know if you've got your own panel.
No, you're staying with me.
Oh, well.
Yes.
Ah, this is your family now?
Yes.
Oh, how lovely.
Are we doing it together?
We're doing it together.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Well, that's pleasure, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I can interrogate the doctor and Joe, ask them all sorts of deep
You can indeed.
It's yours or mine?
Those are mine.
Oh,
Put them on, it'll be even blinder.
right, we've cleaned up now.
Yeah, we'll clean that.
Brush it down.
Oh, is this yours?
Don't read that, that's about you.
Oh.
Say this.
Is this yours?
She cannot see anything. You probably gather.
Actually, truly, the other day I went to, I'll tell you this, but it's a really silly story. I was going to go to a book launch, and I arrived at the hotel, and I sort of walked once around the room, and hardly anybody had arrived, and I was very busy. First time I've been anywhere by myself for ages. I thought I'd just nip in, say hello to a few people, and the person whose book it was that was being launched. Anyway, none of the people that I knew had arrived, and I suddenly got terrible attack of the shies. And so I left the room and I sort of stood behind a potted palm in the hotel lobby for ages, waiting to see somebody I knew to arrive. And I thought, this is ridiculous, I can't see them when they do. So, you know, I won't know when to make my entrance. I can go and say, hello, darling, lovely to see you. And I wouldn't have. So I suddenly thought, this is ridiculous. Here I am, a mature, grown woman, and I'm standing behind a potted palm, right, squinting to see if there's a. So finally I thought, oh, well, I'll just go to the potty. And by this time, I'm feeling a little kind of silly and a bit nervous and a little kind of depressed and shy. So I went into the potty, and I was sort of standing there, you know how you do, just sort of gazing into the mirror and thinking, come on, get your courage, come on, Katie, you can do it, you'll be all right. Let's go in there, they'll all be there in a minute. And I'm there for ages, agonizing about whether or not I should go into this party or not, because I thought, as I say, I've been by myself for ages. And I'm standing there, and suddenly this man said, would you hurry up? I'm in the men's potty. Standing there dying to finish. And I got that finished, I went home.
Well, the reason why Katie was a lunatic is you all know, tell her. Beautiful, with a good raving
You better put this right quick or I'm going to go.
The reason why she did these incredibly harebrained things with me in Doctor Who was because she didn't see what the hell she was doing. So when we went on a motorcycle, we went through charging up country lanes and things, and sort of laying the bike over, Kate was saying, oh, this is absolutely natural, she couldn't see it.
But it's true, I mean, it's like, I lose keys a lot, right? And, that's another story.
Oh,
But
really?
Yes, I actually had to walk through a whole hotel foyer, and because I went to steal somebody's do not disturb sign, and because I hadn't got one, and I suddenly got really guilty about it, so I thought I'd take it and put it back again. And I only had a t-shirt on, and it came to about here. And I thought, no, you can't steal other people's do not disturb signs, you don't want to be disturbed. So I went up, very pretty, very silly, and I pushed back on the door, and I turned around and my room door shut. And there I am in a t-shirt, that's it. And I had to go down 6 flights in the lift, and then I had to walk through the piano bar that way. And then I approached the desk this way, and then I'm like this. And I said, have you got a key? And they said, no, you've had all your keys. I said, oh, well, we have a slight problem. So eventually they got the security guard and he let me in and everything. But in one place I used to live, and it was on the 7th floor, and when I got locked out, I used to go into the apartment next door, and I used to walk around there. It was like a little precipice, like this. And I used to sort of, hello, and stay out. And I used to walk along this little precipice. And people said to me, you're mad, there's this huge drop. I said, listen, sweetheart, when you can't see how far it is to fall, who cares? I mean, no sense at all, so it doesn't matter. So, of course, I would never fall, because I have no fear, none whatsoever. Except to go to parties on my own.
Katie, John, when I've done the panels with John, he always talks about, he always says you had enormous faith in him when you're doing the dangerous stuff and all. Now, you've got a chance for your side of the thing. Did you really have that much trust in